Okay, how do we define the unemployment rate? Well, the unemployment rate, we define it as somebody who is unemployed, or not, I'm sorry, not. How do we define the unemployment rate? To begin, we must first categorize where a person is. An individual could be classified as employed. Right? This one's really straightforward. You have a job. You have a job, you're employed. That one's easy. Second one, unemployed, little bit trickier. So to be unemployed, it doesn't just mean that you don't have a job. It means you don't have a job, and on top of that, you have been looking for a job. So you don't have a job, you want a job, you've been actively seeking a job. The third category, if you're not working and you're not unemployed, so if you're not working and you're not unemployed, you're considered not in the labor force. So from 2009, this is dated a little bit, but it gives you the picture here. You can be unemployed, employed, or not in the labor force. If you are employed or unemployed, you are considered in the labor force. So you're either working or you are actively searching for a job. So in 2009, right, when the unemployment rate was pretty high because of the Great Recession, the labor force was 154.2 million, 14.3 are unemployed, right? That leads to an unemployment rate in the 9%, somewhere in the 9% range. You also have a large group of individuals, adults, that aren't in the labor force. These are individuals who aren't looking for a job, right? Maybe they're retired. Maybe they're college students. Maybe they are staying at home with children, whatever the reason. They're not looking for work, not actively searching for work, not in the labor force. You can see it's a pretty substantial portion of the adult population. So an employed person includes everyone employed. Could be part-time, could be full-time. So an interesting dynamic, often you'll hear of somebody being underemployed. That's often when they're working, but they're not working as much as they'd like to work. You are considered employed, but there are some people who try to keep metrics of how many people are underemployed. Well, if you work part-time when you'd rather work full-time, you would be considered underemployed. Unemployed person, someone who's not currently employed, and has actively looked for employment within the past 4 weeks. It's a big point, right? That's the kind of point that on an exam you may see sometime, right? So what exactly is meant by an unemployed person? Being out of the labor force, that's you don't have a job and you're not considered unemployed because you haven't been looking for a job within the past 4 weeks. You're out of the labor force. This would include, as I mentioned, retired workers, people taking time off to raise a family. It also includes what are called discouraged workers. So people perhaps say were unemployed for a year, couldn't find a job, and they just gave up. Those individuals would be considered discouraged workers. That's not a good thing. An exercise for you to do, you know the definitions now, you know enough to compute the unemployment rate in our little mini sample economy. So we've got 1,000 people in an economy, 800 have full-time jobs, 50 have part-time jobs, 100 aren't employed and would like jobs. Of those 100, 40 have looked for a job in the last 4 weeks. If you notice there's 50 leftover people, we'll assume those are 50 retired folks who aren't looking for jobs. What's the unemployment rate here? Now would be the time for you to pause the video and for you to do the math to figure this out. Okay, I hope you paused this to try to find this out on your own. We're gonna take a quick look now. I'm gonna use Microsoft Excel to help guide us through the answer. Now, the key thing in getting this, and really it's the key in interpreting a lot of statistics, is to know what information is important for the calculations and know what's not important. 1,000 people in an economy, that's not really the information we need to know here. We need to know what the labor force is. So how many people are employed here? Well, 800 have full-time jobs and 50 have part-time jobs. It's 850. How many people are unemployed? We say 100 are not employed, but not employed is not equal to unemployed. And I mean, that might sound like it's a wordplay, but employed means to have a job. Not employed means you don't have a job. The definition of unemployed is very specific. The definition of unemployed is you don't have a job and you have looked for a job in the last 4 weeks. 40 is the number for unemployed, which means our labor force is, it's the sum of these two. So it's 850 plus 40, so we have 890. I could use the sum feature in Microsoft Excel to add that up. So the unemployment rate, what is the unemployment rate? Well, you take the number unemployed, divide it by the labor force, those who are employed and unemployed, and in this little sample economy, right, it's about 4.5%. I think we'll click the percentage button. Now let's move this over. 4.5%. 40 people are unemployed out of a labor force of 890. That is our unemployment rate. And we will resume again with part 3